All right, so Iron Maiden has released, or people have released, the first 2 shows on YouTube already. Of course, they're aware. This Bruce is like, the whole world is watching. So this is going to be cool. So this is the Run for Your Lives tour. And, a few months ago, Nicko basically, retired from playing live because playing live is a big commitment. It is something to where it's like, it's not for everybody. It's really, what? Anyone can sort of, sing, or anyone can kind of play, and they're at a certain level, but then they don't understand what it really takes to make it in a band and tour and things like that. If you look at Iron Maiden, if you look at their tour schedule, right, when they were like in their early 20s, right, they toured the whole freaking year, basically every month, and that was like, album tour. So that is pretty hectic. That's what basically did Diano in, because he was just like, he went from playing small tours, and then all of a sudden Killers. Go look at the tour log for Killers, right? And it's just going on and on and on. That's the first time they came to America, and it's just so many shows, and it just broke him, right? He looked at Steve Harris and he was just like, I don't want to do this, I want to go home. And then shortly after that he left, right? So this is not for everybody. You may think that you want this lifestyle, but going on tour is basically brutal. Most people can't even do it. A lot of people. So this is when you need the complete package, right? You have to check all these boxes off. Some of these boxes I've already talked about before. You know what I mean? Right? We've already talked about all this stuff. I hate to say youth, but then this is just like rap music, just like all music, right? This is a youth-oriented market, right? Only if you're like 21 or 22, right? You can eat junk food, right? You can eat shit and basically eat a gas station burrito and go out there and play a show every single night. This is what Lemmy said. I don't care who you are. I don't care how old you are, right? There's no way that, you're going to play this kind of music without help. And then I think we all know what he meant by help, So, because in the Overkill tour, they basically played a show like every day. Look at the tour log for Overkill, the tour schedule for Overkill. Every day they played a show, and there's no way that you can play that. This is why they get into vices and addicted to substances. Everybody from Johnny Cash to Elvis to even back then, because the road will basically destroy you. So 30, 40 years or whatever it's been since Nicko, so he's done, right? He's done. So he stepped out, and they got this new guy in Simon. So at first it's like the spin of this is that, he's like Clive Burr, and he's like, now it's like everything's sort of kind of like how Clive used to play almost, right? And at the 10,000 foot level, this looks great. This looks like, because Nicko has a very specific kind of style. So I will do this drumming here, because I'm a little bit of a drummer. Right, Nicko has this kind of style to where he's kind of like this, like if you were to play the, for example, Where Eagles Dare. Let's just take that, right? He just has this kind of slow kind of. Hopefully you can hear the foot. And he's just sort of casually just sort of doing this, right? Down, 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 down. Right? He kind of has that casual kind of style, which is introducing Peace of Mind. Now, if Clive Burr had played that, he would have played that tighter and snappier. So drummers, you know what I'm talking about, right? He would have probably played like this. Sorry, the whole thing is shaking, so the camera's shaking. I don't know how Clive would play it, but something like that, more snappier, right? And more kind of tighter, he would play that. So 2 different styles we're talking about. So that's the fascination. I think the biggest mistake Steve Harris ever made in his life is to fire Clive Burr after Number of the Beast. What he should have done is that he should have let Clive play all the way through the first 8 albums, the most, basically the most popular albums. To me, Maiden is the first 8 albums. So up to Seventh Son, and then they should have brought in Nicko. But they brought in Nicko at the crucial point. I mean, Nicko is great, but I'm just saying, they kind of lost that momentum to where, can you imagine how badass, Peace of Mind would have sounded, right, with Clive Burr, let alone Power Slave, and then, Somewhere in Time. That would have, all that shit would have sounded sick, because he's like a tighter, kind of a more different feel. So this new guy, Simon, supposedly it's like, wow, he can play like that. And, Bruce even made this comment recently. I guess English people are like, whatever they call it, taking the piss out of each other, right? And you can make any kind of joke and then not mean it. Americans, like, we're serious, right? We're kind of serious. Everything we, right? Everybody I've seen, right? They kind of take it to heart. They don't like to really joke around too much. I mean, we joke around, but then, not like, British people, I think. So he'd made the comment just like a month ago to sort of, pump up this new drummer that, the Number of the Beast. This was right after I played Number of the Beast on the bass, right? And then remember, like, we did that whole bass thing, right? You don't know who's watching. So it was right after that, right after I played Number of the Bass, and I was like, look how cool I am, And then, so Bruce went on an interview, and he said that songs like Number of the Beast got a new life because, instead of, he said that, Nicko would be like, instead of having like ballet boots, now, ballet shoes, now it's like, this drummer has like boots on, and then, it's almost like Maiden got its, sort of its, I don't want to say it, but, sort of went back to the way like maybe Clive played it. So that was the sort of the thing where he compared, and he said Nicko, and he said, oh wait, it's like ballet shoes. Like I said, British people, they can say whatever they want to say, and it's all taken as a joke, right? So, and then this is like kind of like, if you had like army boots on, supposedly, the Simon guy. So that's the context there. They try to pump up this guy. Now, at the 10,000 foot level, when you first hear it, this looks great. I was like, wow, dude, all these songs have like a new life and stuff. And then if you kind of watch the whole 2 hours, because somebody's already uploaded the whole, the Hungary 2 hour, show. And then you start to see where it kind of falls apart. So, problem here is that Simon, he doesn't have the elegance of Nicko. So, I mean, that's what this is that you can hear it to where it's like he's on it, and there's something wrong with the snare sound. It sounds kind of too loose, or it's almost like he's playing a kit like this, right? And then it's just something like the snare should be tighter, I think. I don't know, it just doesn't sound right. The snare doesn't sound right. And then a lot of the fills, right, are kind of clunky, right? You can't, that's the one thing about Nicko, was that he was never off time, right? Like I said, he had that elegance. Even though he didn't play faster, right, and snappier, right? He was kind of like a southern drawl kind of thing, if you want to use an analogy like that. And then kind of loose, but then everything was kind of perfect, right? He had that elegance to come in on time. This guy, this is just my commentary. I'm not trying to say that, this is a bad drummer, or this is, what I mean? This just says my thought. You don't have to follow it, right? Or even agree with it. So there's the clear instances where there's like a fill, and then he doesn't finish the fill, and then the band has to come in, so he's like, oh, and then he hits that cymbal and everybody comes back in. So that's kind of clunky, to where he didn't kind of do the fill all the way. He stops the fill halfway, and then he kind of does this because maybe he just doesn't have that elegance. So unfortunately, the problem here is that it just sounds clunky, right? Not for Iron fucking Maiden, And I hate to make the statement, but it just sounds like a cover drummer, right? And here's the fallacy that Steve Harris makes. A lot of people make, is that we go with familiarity because there's less risk, right? When something is familiar, right, we go with that option without critically thinking, right? So this guy Simon used to be in Steve Harris's band British Steel, right? Not British Steel, excuse me, British Lion, right? So he used to be in British Lion, and so he's already kind of known Steve Harris through then, or maybe even before then. So he's like, oh, let's get him in there, right? So it's always Steve's call. Like, just like Blaze Bayley was basically Steve's call. Steve wanted him in there because he looked kind of like a young Bruce Dickinson at the time, right? Right? So if you look at pictures of him, he kind of almost looks like Bruce, and, behaves like Bruce in the early time when he was in Wolfsbane. So he got him in there. It's usually Steve's call, I think. So Just because Simon is familiar and he's played with them, he thought that he could just fit into Iron Maiden. My whole thing here is that, like I said, he doesn't have the elegance of Nicko Mcbrain. Again, even though Nicko played a little bit slower, he played kind of looser, he knew when to come back in time. So ultimately, music is about tightness. Is it tight? Yes. Are they just playing 2 shows? Will they get better? You know, I don't know, hopefully. But some of these habits are hard to kick, right? If he's not coming back in on the fill on the right time, I mean, I don't know what to say, right? So, I don't know. Just the drum sound, for something, like I said, 2 things I noticed right off the bat. I'm sure people are taking notes there. You know what I mean? Is the snare sound. It just sounds kind of loose, and then it's not tight enough. Like Nicko, even though he knows how to get a sound. Nicko knows how to get a sound, right? So even though, like, if you look at Fear of the Dark, the snare sounds like a cannon almost, right? But he knows how to get that. For some reason, this sounds kind of loose, almost like if it was triggered or something. You know what I mean? Like a kind of a weird kind of. It's there, but not all there. And then the tightness is just not there. And then the fills, obviously, where it's kind of clunky to where coming back in, not bad, right? But kind of like, reminiscent of like a cover band kind of, material. So is this good enough for Iron fucking Maiden? I don't know. For Iron fucking Maiden, come on, right? Is it good enough for that? I don't know. So that's the problem here, is that when you first listen to it, you're like, oh shit, this is badass, man. He sounds just like, Clive a little bit. Everything's a little bit tighter. Everything's a little bit faster. Everything's a little bit snappier. Number of the Beast is like just like almost like album speed. A little bit closer. Where Nicko would just be like, Nicko would just be like this. Kind of like I said, very kind of Nicko would play like that. Clive would play like this. Right, a little bit. I don't want to say faster. Sometimes it's just tighter, right? Tighter and, of course, a little bit faster, right? So, this guy plays similar to that. Kind of like Clive. But then, like I said, it's not working, I think. I don't know. I would be, I think, a little bit disappointed if I went to saw that. And then it's just kind of like like a cover band drummer. I'm sure he's a great drummer. I'm sure he's great for British Lion. I'm sure he's great for other things. But these are some big shoes to fill, right? For Iron Maiden, it's some big shoes to fill. So hopefully, maybe they'll get better. Because they've only played 2 shows so far, and I'm sure someone's going to watch this video, because people always do. So maybe this video will help them go, hey, excuse me, but there's these 2 things wrong here. The snare doesn't sound right, and he's not coming back in on time in the fills, right? And then which kind of makes it sound kind of clunky. Overall, not bad. But if I were to rate this only on timing and tightness, right? I don't know. Should I give it a rating? I mean, this is like like cover bands are probably tighter than this, right? So Iron Maiden cover bands are probably even tighter than this. So, but to the casual person, this might be okay. This may not be a big deal, but you can tell when there's clunkiness here and there. So that's the thing here, is that some of it sounds good, some of it sounds great, right? But then little bits of it I think doesn't. Where Nicko had that elegance to sort of put it all together in time, and he had that elegance of fill. Even if he fucked up, he would know how to do, like, if he kind of went and then he kind of fucked up, right? He would just know how to be like right in time, right? So Nicko is the kind of drummer that, even if he fucked up, drummers like that are so good, they have so much finesse about them, they're playing, that even if they fucked up, right, they know how to kind of bring it back in time, and most of the people can't really tell. So that's the thing, and I think next year they're going to come to America. And then, here's the deal with this, is that, like I said, I've seen Maiden before, and I haven't been to a big show in a long time. At first I was like, at the 10,000 foot view, I was like, damn, dude, this is almost pretty cool. But after watching it, and then kind of, oh wait, there's little clunky parts here and there, right? And then it kind of, that initial enthusiasm is kind of gone, And the set list is basically, all the first 8 albums, I think, and then plus Fear of the Dark. Bruce is singing great. Bruce sounds just like, he sounds almost like it did when he was like 21 in the Number of the Beast tour, I think. So he's the one that's doing really great. I think he's doing really great. Yeah, ultimately, so he was probably more inspired because, like I said, it's a little bit more tighter and snappier. Because when the singer can only do so much if if the drummer is kind of like lethargic and kind of slow, right? Like Nicko was a little bit, So having it more snappier, he's able to just come in on time and faster. So Bruce is doing a great job, I think. He sounded great, right? Because sometimes you don't want to linger on those notes too much, because that's actually takes more effort to sing it slower than to sing it faster. So he's doing really great. Like I said, would I go see this? I don't know. Probably not, because I haven't seen Maiden in a long time. I've seen Maiden before. Watched the whole 2-hour thing, and I'm sure I'm going to watch it. As these new dates appear, probably 10 more times. By that time, you've already seen it. If I just turn off all the lights, it's almost like I'm there, right? So people go to the concerts for the experience. Like I said, couple of things here, right? I've already seen Maiden. Number two, this doesn't strike me as the, tightest performance. Maybe it'll get better. We don't know, right? So a couple of other people have made comments like this about the drummer. So I don't know. I think he's good. But it just seems like, for a production like this, as big as Iron Maiden, right? I don't know if, they could have got anybody in the world. Right? And they go with this guy because he's more convenient. And Steve's convinced that this guy is the guy, right? So anyway, so I think, the stage set looks great. Supposedly they're using a LED background, somebody said. I don't know if this is true, but it almost looks very 3D. So I was really impressed with that. So it almost looks 3D. Like Eddie's really like coming out of the screen or something. It looks very 3D. So I thought that was kind of cool. Especially in the song Iron Maiden, when he's just kind of like this, and then he's looking around, and it's almost like 3D. So they've used LED technology, I believe. Somebody said it's an LED thing, and this is the first time they're using it. I thought it was a hologram at first, because it looks kind of holographic, kind of like the Dio hologram kind of thing. But I guess it makes sense that it's LED because it's really, kind of, everything looks kind of perfect, right? So anyway, guys, would I check it out? I don't know. I mean, maybe. But I haven't been to a show in a long time, like a show like this, like a famous show, right, in a long time. So anyway, tell me what you think if you want. But I think that, yeah, it's just hard to capture that elegance of Nicko. Bruce sounds great, I think. He sounds great. Because ultimately, like I said, it's easier to sing a little bit more snappier and up-tempo than something that kind of, something that's a lot slower, right? So, or something that kind of drags a little bit, right? So he's doing great. It's just maybe, and who knows, maybe they'll get tighter as they go along. Because this is only the European leg, right? Then there's the American round, so, and they're playing all the big songs, I think. So they're playing like the, stuff from Killers, Murders in the Room Org, shit. I don't think they played that in a while, right? And at the speed at where Clive plays it. So I think it's partially there. If he could just sort of tighten it up a little bit more and work on the fills and then fix the snare sound, right? I think that'll be good. Maybe, it'll be pretty good, I think. But again, I'm not the only one to point this out. Many people have pointed this out in the comments that, that it just sounds like he's not really trying. Like he's just like, okay, Maiden. And he's not like, oh shit, Maiden, fuck. That's what it should be like. Look at Clive, right? He's just like driving that thing, right? Anyway, guys. But it was pretty cool. I watched the whole thing, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to watch, 10 more of those as, they play more shows and stuff like that, right? So, because people will upload the whole show on YouTube. So, yeah, I mean, I think the set list is good. I think everything is good. So we'll just have to see what happens. I wonder if they're going to use this guy for the studio. See, that might be good. Is that, somebody like this might be good for the studio rather than, live. I don't know. Who knows? All right.